to the day a little earlier on.
Staying light on the way in too, so be a bit careful.
So two fine helmsmen, two very experienced men. And the Japanese have port entry for this one. Let's bring in Joey Newton once more. He's out on the water for us today, part of the American operation that's out here in Bermuda. Anything we can read into that first race that may have bearings on what we're about to see here, Joey?
Just that the boats are really close together, Elliot. As I'm watching here, it looks like Artemis might be early for the start or very close to it. So it'll be interesting to see if they get a penalty. But I don't know with this race, it'll be anyone's guess. They seem super evenly matched teams, equal boat speed. So it's anyone's race, really.
I totally agree. We actually didn't see it on air. Off air, we looked at average speeds, and they were about 1/10 of a knot apart in that first race. So we knew they were similar, and the numbers are proving it.
He's going to be going on the green.
The big bear away to the bottom end. Average.
Well, the heart's beating fast.
He looks cool, but the ticker's moving.
Go, boys. Racing goose, go. We're just pressing
The stakes high as we go again then in the Louis Vuitton America's Cup Challenger semi-final between Dean Barker's SoftBank Team Japan with 3 points and Nathan Outridge's Swedes in Artemis Racing with 2. First to 5 through to the final.
Here comes Outridge ripping down around the starting box towards Dean Barker, potentially trying to put a little hook in there, trying to get around underneath. We'll see if he can pull it off, and for sure he's going to push him down to the bottom end of the start box and make it a little more difficult. 30 seconds to go. He's almost trying to step over in front of the Japanese right now. We're pretty early for the start to do that, but let's see if he can make it work. Remember, Barker was about a half a second early in that first race. Definitely more aggressive sailing by Outridge today, though. This is going to be another time and distance start. Let's see if Barker can use that extra distance to get it going a little quicker off the line. He better get going. He's tight on that mark. He's tight.
A great joust in the early stages, and the Swedes off and away, and Dean Barker just doesn't look to have judged that terribly well at the outset.
He got well down on that ley line, and Outridge did exactly the right thing. He kind of stepped over in front of the Japanese, in front of Barker, and not only put Barker in a tougher spot, but timed that line perfect.
The starts were his thing, weren't they? Dean Barker's specialism to some degree, certainly at the start of this regatta, the World Series as well. He was known as being an excellent starter, but look at the speed here from Artemis Racing. 42 knots, rounding the mark, still moving upwards. And Japanese with it all to do, even now, in this very, very early stage.
43 knots of boat speed and 12 knots of wind.
Japanese, by the way, have been the quickest here in Bermuda. They've reached 48.12 knots. No, that's wrong. They've reached 47.57. The record overall in the America's Cup is 48.12, set by Dean Barker's then Emirates Team New Zealand in the last Cup in San Francisco 4 years ago.
This is looking awfully familiar, like the first race today. Gosh, what you don't want to do, you don't want to leave the dock this morning with a 3-1 wind and halfway through the day find yourself tied. You know, this is not a this is a pressure spot for Barker, and so far we're 0 for 2 off the starting line, something he certainly will not be happy with.
Looks like they're heading straight for a spectator boat. But be aware that the boundary is right there, as you can see from that orange buoy, orange marker.
Still a game, going straight. Yeah, I agree.
diving right on the boundary and
We should have a lead.
looking for that ley line,
The wind is in the right here, okay? Right space.
straightest, the most direct route through the gate. The Swedes are flying right now.
The Swedes look solid, and a good start. That was a very, very, very smart start by Outeridge. He played that very well. That step over move in front of your opponent. If you can make the timing work, it's effective. If you can't, you're in trouble. And he made it work.
Okay, building to the tattoo.
Ready to bounce it? Want to go before?
I think these guys would say this is perfect weather for these boats today. Flat water, 13, 14 knots of breeze. Certainly a bit of a reprieve from the other day where it was just literally hang on for dear life.
Yeah, no bits flying off today.
That's a fair point.
No debris flying. Boat builders will be a little happier. They'll be able to actually watch it rather than hide behind their chairs. It's not terribly clean from the Japanese, but they've popped up out of it okay. But all those little errors will be compounded if the Swedes continue to rip.
Every little bit is magnified. Every little mistake is magnified. The deeper you go into the rounds, because you know what, you're sailing against people who just simply don't make as many mistakes. We saw that in the last race with BAR upsetting Emirates Team New Zealand with really a flawless race. To catch Artemis right now, I think Dean Barker's going to have to do the same thing. Still within that realm, though. You know, we always talk about that 150 meter distance that is one mistake away. Artemis does make a mistake, and this is going to be, you know, this is a close race in a split second.
There again, we've got one of the spectator boats inside the course itself, inside the boundary marker.
Pressure on you, will come to you at this angle.
Japan's made a little gain here. Little right-hand shift on this leg so far for Japan. And going pretty well. Gotten themselves back within about 100 meters, but long way to go. It's one thing to get close, it's another thing to pass in these boats. And
fluctuations in fortunes, all having to be dealt with by these sailors. Nathan Outeridge under a good deal of pressure coming into today, but responding really well. He would not have been happy with the way Tuesday went on a variety of different levels, but at the moment, performances today in a different class.
Good gains here.
You hear Ian Percy saying good gains here. He likes their mode. He likes the wind shift going in their direction. Joey, two pretty equal boats again, but you know what? When you're in equal boats, you can't have a bad start.
No, you can't. And the Japanese have let themselves down a couple of times today. You know, they had a terrible start. They've had a couple of bad tacks up this beat, and all of a sudden Artemis are out to a comfortable lead. And they're just back to doing their thing. Nice, comfortable match racing between the Japanese and the mark, and it's going to be hard to pass.
100 or so meters between the two, so still certainly within that one mistake range. Your Artemis, you're looking to remain perfect, because these guys there are no slouches right behind you.
And it is that inconsistency that has been a problem for the Swedes through the course of this campaign. Found their form pretty late in the qualifying stages. Penalties that have cost them. Racing well here, finding good speed. Now let's not forget as well, they're the only team out here in Bermuda to have actually beaten the defenders. They've won both of their races against Oracle Team USA.
This is the last one coming here. Couple of back waves here, Dino. Nice red course here. Yeah, let's go, Dino. Let's go.
Comfortably the noisiest boat, I think, the Swedes.
It does
Win
sound
that
like
prize.
it's a jet engine. Sounds like a jet engine taking off. These foils underwater humming. Japanese still just hanging close. They're staying close. They're trying to force. We've seen the Kiwis use this strategy to their advantage. They're trying to keep it close and put a little more pressure on that guy in front.
Right-hand mark is quite favoured.
All right.
Very slick-looking jibe there from the Japanese. You heard Percy say on their boat, right-hand mark is favored. It'll be interesting to see if Artemis goes right to that mark that they like. You look down the race course, you look down here, if they're accurate, you can see that mark right there is closer. So right now, Artemis is setting up for 1 and in. Let's see if the Japanese try to split and go to the other side, even though that mark is not favored.
That's it right now. You like right turn? He's going to be 1 and in right. Pressure on the inside. Following him, Dino. He set up, excellent.
Setting up.
Very close race. Starboard tack advantage to Artemis. 1 and in. Japan needs to pull off another jibe and keep the pressure on. Will they do a split at the bottom end?
A little biased, but they're just moving it.
Ian Percy just said what none of us picked up, him or me included. They were moving the marks. They were readjusting the marks, and that's why they looked a little off kilter there when I drew on our board, and they look a little more sorted right now. But Japan is in a tough spot to make this split move. I think they're going to have to follow him in.
It's looking that way. What's the decision from Dean Barker? He is sticking with that policy by the look of things, and round they go, in behind the Swedes, but with it all to do.
We're going to be hitting on starboard and hitting on board.
So again, we're back to this scenario, Ken, presumably, where the Japanese pretty much are reliant on errors from the Swedes to find a way back in here, although they're turning early here, they're tacking upwind early to plot a different course.
Well, I think they were in the bad air, but you can see at the top of the course, nice dark streak of wind, and we really saw Artemis's angle change. I think there's a really nice dark wind up here in the race course where there looks to be pressure. I would be surprised if we didn't see a little bit of a gain by Artemis on a slight left shift.
It's rough work out there.
Okay. 50. Here's another one, another pulse round.
One of the helmsmen, I forget which, very recently, I think it might have been Dean Barker actually, he was just saying these guys
remember on his line,
flogging their guts out was the expression that he used.
Go.
Tactical calls by, he wants to hit them hard, which doesn't mean run into them for those at home. He wants to tack right on top of their face, right? Use that wing wash as effectively as possible to slow down the Japanese. This is always a crucial tack. Hit them hard means tack on them and use the dirty air off of your wing to affect your opponent's hair.
Long strong this way for pressure. Yeah, we're going to go soft port, hard starboard. He's just leaking out at the moment. Look at the top mark. What do you like at the top? You're open course. He goes, so let's go with him.
That's the wing wash that Ken's been talking about, the disrupted air causing trouble for SoftBank Team Japan, and Dean Barker bearing away.
Percy called it at the bottom gate. We heard him say, I want to hit him hard on starboard and give him loose on port, which means he kind of likes the left-hand side of the race course and the pressure out there, and he wants to punish them on one tack. Very often you can't punish an opponent on both tacks. It's too hard to tack directly in unison. So we're doing soft covers on one tack and very firm covers on the other.
So Nathan, right hand top mark is favoured though. Okay. D&G. What mark is better for pressure though? I know probably left. I know it's a lot of meters. Yeah, 100. I think we stay in favour. Let's see how it looks after that. He might try and do it in 1-2. Yeah, I think he might. So right on his line, okay, go. Okay, setting up, my wing.
The ability for Ian Percy to work as hard as he is working physically and yet still be tactically savvy, be picking the right places to try to manipulate the boat into.
He doesn't load and we easy load.
I mean, it is something, isn't it?
Just go straight.
Having a clear head when your heart is pounding the way that it is something else.
It's about the same as an extra track. Exactly.
Heads up all the time, isn't he?
So that was a bit of a veto by Nathan Outeridge. It's always very interesting. The tactician called for, I want you to tack right on his line. Outeridge took a quick look around and decided, I'm going to go up a little bit above his line. We're going to make it to this gate in 1, and I think Japan's going to have to tack one more time. So that's a perfect combination of information from the tactician, but a little bit of a veto from the helmsman, which is probably going to work out in their favor. Very good play. See, they're slow coming into this mark. Look out, 19 knots coming into this mark, 17 knots. So very well done by Nathan Outeridge. Doing a little bit of an override on his tactician. They're going to be very pleased how that happened, how that whole sequence happened on board Artemis.
Well, that's teamwork for you. And the lead is a very healthy one at this point for the Swedish boat. Working nicely in unison. Symmetry, symbiosis, telepathy, call it what you will. When the tactician and the helmsman are working in partnership like that, it can be a very effective combination.
3-1 lead in the overall series for the Japanese has almost officially evaporated. You know what that means, Sally?
A little bit just in front of us for 15.
It means it's 3-all.
It means we're coming back tomorrow no matter what.
Tomorrow, of course.
The whole world gets to see more cool America's Cup action tomorrow.
Anytime. 2, 1, 4 jet.
The final downwind leg, and a very impressive display from the Swedes under Nathan Outeridge. Go big or go home, that's his phrase. They've gone big today. Well beaten twice on that thrilling Tuesday. Chaotic, madcap Tuesday. A slightly calmer, rather more organised and disciplined Thursday.
Put a little bit of that in it. Yeah, anytime.
The comms coming off of Artemis today are terrific. Just what a difference. Well, you know what? You have that crazy day like they had. Maybe yesterday's day off was almost more important for them than it was for Emirates Team New Zealand. You know, they just seemed like a totally different outfit at this stage.
And that boat was in tatters as well, wasn't it? I mean, I know a lot of it was cosmetic, but it didn't look terribly pretty, and they will have had a pretty big patch-up job themselves. Not quite in the same league as the Kiwis, but...
We talk about the short teams for the Kiwis. It's the short teams for all these boats, and for sure the short teams of Artemis had their work cut out for them. They would have had that boat 100% probably by yesterday, whereas Team New Zealand probably loved that extra 24 hours, but nonetheless, this boat looks They come out of the shed looking brand new every day. It's pretty impressive, especially after what we saw go on 2 days ago.
So the Swedes putting it all together today and turning the table somewhat in the semi-final against the Japanese. Out of it on Tuesday, right back in the mix here on Thursday. It is 3 points apiece between these two. It is all square.
Back over here, good.
Terrific resilience, belief in their team, their boat, their performance. And the Japanese outgunned on a couple of occasions here this afternoon. A couple of starts that Dean Barker might like to have all over again if he got the chance.
2 equal boats, like we keep talking about, and that makes that start and that rounding of Mark 1 that much